Good afternoon and welcome to Small Business Matters. And today, actually, we have a special edition of Small Business Matters because we have really a special guest. This gentleman has done a TEDx talk, and I'm going to reveal some other things about him. I did some homework on him. So without further ado, Raymond Rodriguez-Torres, how are you?
Wonderful. Thanks for having me here. I'm really excited to be here.
It's great to have a fellow explorer here, by the way.
Indeed.
So I always like to get to know my guests a little bit personally, and I've done a little bit of background work on you, and I understand that unlike most, you're of Cuban descent?
Yes.
Unlike most of Cuban descent, you weren't born in Miami. You were born, where were you born?
I was born in Toledo, Ohio.
How did that happen?
Well, my father, who's my best friend, who turned 99 this year, is a pediatric cardiologist.
Wow.
And he was the chief of Miami Children's Hospital for 20 years. But prior to that, when they left Cuba in 1959, he had a circuitous route to get to Toledo, Ohio. He spent some time in England, redid his career in cardiology and in pediatric cardiology at the Royal Infirmary in London and at the University of Manchester. And the reason why he did that is because he wanted to practice medicine in the United States, but he knew he wouldn't credentialize. So he had to go to England. And that in itself is a story, because when my father went to England, he did not speak English. So today at 99, he speaks English with heavy Spanish accent, but he learned to speak English in England. So to this day, he doesn't say cookies, he says biscuits. And he says the bloody dog. And it's the most twisted thing you've ever heard. But when he did come to the United States, they were in New York for about 15 years. And then he took a position at the Medical College of Ohio in Toledo. And that's why in the midst of snow and sleet, I was born in Toledo before they came to Miami.
So how old were you when you came to Miami?
3.
You were 3 years old. Yeah. You remember anything about Toledo?
We went back once that I can remember, and we saw where we lived, and it was a little bit of an uncomfortable visit because we literally knocked on the door and said, "We used to live here. Do you mind if we see you?" But they were very accommodating, and that's what I remember of Toledo, and I do have to go back to visit my roots. My understanding is that Toledo has grown quite a bit. It used to be called the armpit of America,
right?
But it's where I was born, so I'm looking forward to going back.
That's great. You know, your father's story is incredible because how many Cuban doctors, other professionals came to this country, didn't speak the language, therefore couldn't practice.
Yes.
That's a lot to be said for your dad.
It was a great blessing to have him as, number one, as my father, my best friend, but the foresight that he had to be able to prepare himself for what he wanted to accomplish here in the United States was extraordinary. In 1966 in Brooklyn, New York, before they moved to Toledo, he actually founded the first PICU in the United States. And so he is an extraordinary gift and an example for this community and for me, especially being his son.
And you're so blessed to have him at 99 years old.
Oh, yes. And he's still, to this day, we have breakfast several times a week. I live 3 minutes from him. I'm his primary caregiver. And he calls me into his library to ask me what it is that I'm doing and all the things that I need to accomplish and to hurry up. So,
Wow. So a little bit about you. You grew up here. You went to Christopher Columbus High School, my alma mater as well. After that, you're a Gator, right? As am I. And then you went out to get your master's at... Where was it?
Oral Roberts University.
At Oral Roberts University.
Oklahoma.
In Oklahoma.
Yeah. And it was an amazing experience because Oral Roberts University is arguably the largest Christian evangelical university in the United States and beyond that. They have a business program, which is what I attended, ironically, in nonprofit leadership. So God knew what was going to come to my life long before I did, obviously. And what attracted me to it is that I had always had the intention or the idea of giving back or serving in some capacity, in some charitable form. And so I enrolled and I was accepted into their nonprofit leadership program in the business school. And interestingly, my first day there, I met the people that were in my cohort, which were from all over the world. So this was a program that was hybrid, partially online, partially residential in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And when I got to Tulsa, I said, there were certain parts of Tulsa that I stepped foot in that I knew I was the first Cuban to ever walk there. But most of the people that attended that program worked in very large ministries. So administrators of conglomerates of churches, the Southern Baptist Convention, very significant entities with hundreds of millions of dollars in assets. At the time, I was the general manager of Hoffman LaRoche Pharmaceuticals, so I was working in secular business, and I was in charge of Florida, Puerto Rico, and the Virgin Islands. And so for me, it was a different experience because I was already well into my career. And I was looking with the intention of one day, when I make it big in business, I was very naive in my thoughts at that time, then I'll give back. And my thoughts were potentially to administer a free clinic for the poor or something to that effect. Little did I know, again, what God had in store and what would become of my life when I left Oklahoma.
What attracted you to the pharma business?
So my oldest brother, Ralph, had worked in the industry for a very long time with Bristol Myers Squibb and other large global firms. When I started early in my career, I've always been in healthcare, but I was working primarily in Latin America and medical equipment for hospitals. And I wanted to get married and I wanted to have a family. And with the amount of travel I was doing as a young man, it was very difficult to do that. So my brother kind of attracted me and introduced me to the U.S. pharma industry. And there I began as a rep. Then I moved on to be a cardiology and thrombosis trainer. And eventually I worked for Hoffman LaRoche and later Genentech, which in great irony is the largest bio-oncology company in the world. Yep. So I had the privilege of launching a lot of the drugs we use in cancer, which certainly became very significant in my life much later.
So I also read that you are a certified master captain and merchant marine as well. What's that all about?
So, interestingly, my dad is also a U.S. Coast Guard captain. It's just something that he wished to do, not that he ever worked in the military or even on the civil side of marine operations. It was for edification. We love the water. We've been boating like so many of us here all of our lives. Yep. In my case, I wanted to follow my dad's footsteps. I wanted to have the basis of education, and then later I became a master captain in the Coast Guard, and now I'm a member of the Coast Guard Auxiliary. So I'll actually be undergoing coxswain training, which is in essence the same as captain training, but for military operations, so that we can assist the military in case of search and rescue and different military operations. So it's something that I very much enjoy, serving our country and being at the ready in the event that I can ever use what I've trained on to help certainly our country and our community.
So you have a home health business, correct?
That's what I do for a living.
You've got the foundation. You're a captain. You've got family. How do you balance all this?
Well, I'm very blessed to have extraordinary team members by my side, both at ALC Home Health, which is what I do for a living. At Live Like Bella, we've built a remarkable team of dedicated ladies. We have one man now, but they are remarkable, and they manage the operations of Live Like Bella now in 38 countries around the world, which I'm extremely proud of. And in a very selfish way, defensive scheduling. What I mean by that is, if you think about the word defensive, it means inherently to protect.
Right.
And what I mean by that is I need to protect myself so that I can be the best version of Raymond for my community, for my job, but for my daughter, Raina, and my wife, Shauna, and even myself. And so I find the time as much as possible and as reasonable to be able to get out on the water, which I so much enjoy, which keeps not only my navigation skills up to par, but at the same time helps me keep my stress coming out the smokestacks instead of out of the bricks.
Got it. So I want to pivot now to the foundation, Live Like Bella. Tell me about the inspiration for Live Like Bella.
Well, our daughter, Bella, our oldest daughter, when she was 4 years old, suddenly became paralyzed without warning. And it was extraordinarily difficult to learn that the cause of her paralysis was a massive tumor around her spine and a diagnosis she had cancer in her jaw, her shoulder, her rib, her hip, her knee, her foot, her left hand, and later her brain. And there are no words to describe after you've scoured the earth with the resources that I had available to me for what I did for a living, and having my best friend, my father, search and only find that in everywhere that we did throughout the world, that Bella's life expectancy at that moment was a matter of weeks to months, and that she would never walk again. As a parent, Carlos, there's nothing that can prepare you for that.
I can't even imagine.
And amazingly, through extraordinary science, support from this amazing community and around the world, Bella inexplicably and miraculously regained the ability to walk, run, and jump. And she didn't live a few weeks or a few months. She battled valiantly for 6 years. And in that process, when Bella had undertaken her last battle, her sixth battle against her cancer, she relapsed 6 times throughout the 6 years. We were at MD Anderson Cancer Center, and she was in a coma. She had had an 18-hour surgery to remove a series of tumors in her abdomen, and she had had a procedure called HIPEC, where they take chemotherapy and boil it and lavage the interior of the patient. And so to protect her from the pain, Bella had been put in a medically induced coma. And over the course of 6 years, there was a large following of people online that were following Bella's story, and they called themselves Bella Believers. And they were a very faithful and very passionate group of people from all around the world. And on one Saturday morning, my wife, Shauna, posted, without ever posting any photographs of the condition that Bella was in, obviously, because it was very gruesome. She posted, "Today is a beautiful Saturday in Houston. Bella's in a coma. She can't go out and do the things that she would normally do. So please, today, in her honor, go out. Go out and pray for others, serve others, belly laugh, enjoy life. You go out and you hashtag live like Bella." And from there, the hashtag was born. And amazingly, there was people from all over the world deciding to go out and serve others, which is what Live Like Bella meant to Bella and to us. And they were posting it online of the charitable works and good deeds that they were doing to honor Bella's life. And when she passed away on May 28th of 2013 and took her last breath in our arms, that evening, LeBron James and Dwayne Wade, because of the support from this community, were encouraged to write hashtag Live Like Bella on their shoes during the Eastern Conference Finals of the NBA. And from that moment on, it went viral. And I will never forget that I had never been on Instagram until the day after Bella passed away. And I remember seeing children in Sri Lanka who don't even comprehend English had written it on their shoes.
Incredible.
Simply because they were emulating what they saw on television. But it was amazing to see a little girl who had been born with developmental delays, who could barely speak, because before Bella became paralyzed and had cancer, she was an exceptional child. We were marginalized, and we knew what it was like to not be invited to birthday parties and all of the things that special needs children face, to later be paralyzed, to be diagnosed with cancer, and to pass away, and to see that she might not have fit in while she was here, but as soon as she went to heaven, boy, do you fit in now. And a viral movement started on the internet to live like Bella. So much so that the week after Bella passed away, President Obama was in Miami, and we were given the opportunity to meet with him. We had a very good discussion about the needs around childhood cancer being the #1 disease killer of children, and the resources that we needed globally to be able to help fight this. And it was in that spirit and during that time, and with support with so many people, that we decided as a family that we were going to live like Bella. We were going to tackle childhood cancer. And so from there, Live Like Bella was born in the garage of our home. And, you know, as I reflect on that period, I reflect on the fact that I had the privilege of delivering the eulogy at my own daughter's funeral. And I said something then in faith, which was true in that moment in 2013 as it is today. And that is that when you read in the obituaries that Bella Rodriguez-Torres died, don't believe it, because she's more alive than she's been in her entire existence. And the proof of that has been in what's happened since. From what started in our garage, today Live Like Bella has surpassed $40 million in research that we've been able to make possible, over 75 trials. And we serve families that have children battling cancer or that have died of cancer in 38 countries and across the United States. Bella's alive.
How else is Bella's spirit manifested in the foundation?
Well, I think we operate in the way that she would have wanted us to. Bella, throughout the course of her battle, asked solely for prayer and to help her friends. See, because she was a special needs, she had a lot of difficulty creating relationships with other children prior to her becoming sick. You know, when you can't understand the rules to a game, children only have so much patience. I'll explain it to you a few times, and then after that. And so Bella struggled making friends. Her friends eventually ended up becoming the other children battling cancer. It was a remarkable thing to see. And one of the things that was a surprise blessing and a gift was that because she was developmentally delayed, she never could comprehend the severity of her illness. And so she was fearless, she was joyful, and she cared more about others. Oftentimes in our culture especially, we'll hear adults say, "No, porque so-and-so has cancer," and they almost whisper it.
Right.
Bella would hear that and say, "Cancer? I have cancer, kind of like saying, today's Monday, what's the problem?
Yeah.
You know, she wasn't fearful at all. She didn't associate the stigma with it, and she couldn't understand the severity of what she was facing. There was beauty in that innocence. There was inspiration in that innocence. And so Live Like Bella as an organization operates with that same spirit. We begin every meeting and everything that we do in prayer, as Bella would have wished, and we try to be the light that goes to the place that is extraordinarily dark. In all that we do, whether it's in research or in the support of the families, we try to be her spirit and embody the way she lived, to live like Bella.
Yeah. I was going to ask you that question, and you mentioned it already. How important is your faith in all of this?
It's the cornerstone because it embodies to the core of who Bella was. I published a book about her life called Why Not Me in 2010, and in Spanish, ¿Por qué no yo? And we were very blessed that it was a bestseller and for Westbow Press, and the English version peaked at number 4 on Amazon's Top 100, and the Spanish version was number 1 for Barnes & Noble for 3 weeks. In that book, and especially the appendix, there is a series of miraculous events that were formally investigated by the church that Bella experienced that were remarkable, as signs and wonders. So much so that it led to the conversion of my wife and strengthened me in a way that I could never deny. Those experiences in Bella's life made the realization that God was paramount to everything that we did now and forever very important. It also led to the unequivocal belief that I have. I know where she is. I know who she's with. And I'll know I see her again. And I believe that she'll be well pleased when I see her again.
You wrote this book. What message were you trying to get across with that book?
Well, the title of the book in English is Why Not Me? And the premise of that is I was guilty so often in my life, and I think many of us can relate, of frequently saying, God, why me?
Did
right?
you say that when they diagnosed your daughter?
I actually said it, yes.
Okay.
The first night after she had presented to the emergency department with paralysis, Bella was misdiagnosed with another illness called Guillain-Barré. It causes paralysis. And we were in the pediatric intensive care unit. Think about the irony of that, with my father founding the first in Brooklyn, New York in 1966. And the pediatric intensive care unit is a place that I pray no one ever has to visit. But those of us that have had to be there know that it's all glass. And the reason why that is because the nurses collaborate with each other in the case a patient is crashing. The treatment there, the attention is one-on-one unless there's an emergent situation. And if there's an emergent situation, it's an amazing thing to watch. They converge, they stabilize the patient, and then they go back to their respective stations. And that night, although I had been guilty all of my life of saying, why not me, for minor inconveniences, why me? There's traffic on the Palmetto, I can't find. I saw 2 children die that first night that I was there with Bella.
Wow.
And I was able to behold my surroundings of here I am with my daughter paralyzed. I'm watching 2 children pass in front of me. God, why me? What have I done to deserve this? And that question went without answer in that moment. And so the premise of the book is being able to look at that circumstance, any circumstance, even something as devastating as the paralysis, diagnosis of stage 4 cancer with your child like we lived. But I believe that if we're capable of taking stock of the talents and blessings that we've been uniquely given, of the people that have been purposefully in our lives, then we can face a scenario such as that, or any inconvenience, if you would. And rather than asking God, why me? If we're capable of doing that, we can declare, why not me? And choose, because it's a choice, to walk in victory, no matter what. And so, you know, my wife, Shauna, is someone that I admire immensely, because for her especially, to be able to go through the horror that we lived, that so many other families are living and going through right now, and being able to have the inspiration of faith, but to be able to declare, why not me, and choosing to walk in victory, even in the death of your own child, I think is a beautiful thing for many people to at least pay attention to and hopefully assimilate themselves.
What did your other daughter, Raina, experience, and what did she feel, and what's she up to today?
Well, I'm extremely proud of Raina. You know, the sibling of a child with cancer is often referred to as the forgotten man and woman. And what I mean by that is, when your child is diagnosed with a life-threatening illness, that's the priority,
Right.
trying to save their life. And the siblings oftentimes have to take second seat because of the urgency, especially, childhood cancer is far more aggressive than cancer in adults. They're growing. So the malignancy is growing exponentially faster than it would in a case like you and I that are not growing as adults anymore. And so the clock is continuously ticking. It is a terrifying situation. And Reina, unfortunately, had to experience a lot of things, watching her sister lose her hair, being immunocompromised and not being able to be with her. She was separated from her oftentimes because Bella was radioactive from some of the treatments that she received. And because Bella was developmentally handicapped, Reina, although the younger sister, became the older sister. Reina would read to Bella. Bella, even though when she passed away at 10, she still could not read. She used to brush her teeth. She used to help her in the bathroom and to bathe. She assumed a different role. And that different role has translated into now Reina's 20 years old. She's an extraordinary young woman. She played NCAA soccer.
Oh, wow.
And she's contributing in so many ways in her studies at FIU and in her work. But she is a big part of what we do at Live Like Bella. In fact, we have an entire program that has been in existence, and another aspect of that in terms of scholarships will be launched in honor of Reina, now this year in September. And it's called the Love Like Reina program, and it's specifically dedicated to siblings of children battling cancer.
That's spectacular. That's really great. Tell me about some of the accomplishments of the foundation that you're most proud of.
So I would say on the research end, several years ago, we partnered with the state of Florida in a very unique way. There are different types of programs throughout the United States with different states, but there's not one exactly like the Live Like Bella Pediatric Cancer Research Initiative. So this was in partnership with the state of Florida, where several years ago with several legislators, we wanted to be able to fund pediatric cancer research. Until that time, Florida was not formally doing anything in children's cancer, but we didn't want to add an additional taxpayer burden. So the way that we found to be able to do that was primarily through the cigarette tax revenue. In other words, we wish people wouldn't smoke, but if you're going to smoke, why not use some of the revenue from the taxes of something like that and use it for the benefit of children? And it was a beautiful coming together because it didn't matter what side of the aisle folks were on. This was something they could rally around. And so the state of Florida created this fund. It's called the Live Like Bella Research Initiative. The funds are administered by the Department of Health. So that money doesn't even come to Live Like Bella as a foundation. It's administered by the Department of Health. There was a committee called the Biomedical Research Advisory Council, which are primarily of physicians around the state and other doctors, and one layperson, which happens to be Nicole de Lara Puente, who's the CEO of Live Like Bella. She sits on the committee called the BRAC. And the BRAC then, with the use of a vendor that grades based on scientific merit all of the research proposals, then they grade them, and the grading scale that the Live Like Bella program uses is the same as the NCI in Washington. And the purpose and the idea behind that is that if it cuts the mustard scientifically for funding in Florida through the Live Like Bella initiative, it would also cut the mustard at the NCI level in Washington, D.C. And many of the studies, now 75 of them, that have been funded by Live Like Bella, roughly 20% of them have gone on to receive follow-on funding from the NCI in Washington. And that's a very good rate. That's a very high rate. And we've seen some remarkable breakthroughs thus far. But this program in particular, being unique to Florida, which is now leading the way, and earlier this year, my wife Shauna and I were asked to be at Stanford University in California and give lectures on this very subject, on how California can do something similar. Because unfortunately, 24 states in the country still don't have childhood cancer listed as a priority. And yet the state of Florida, the Sunshine State, is leading the way because of this program, bringing light to an extraordinarily dark place.
What percentage of research dollars go to childhood cancer, considering the whole?
Globally, less than 4% of the NCI's budget.
Wow.
And there's a multitude of reasons why that is, but one of them is very central to one of the things that we first were able to impact in Florida. And that has to do around death certificates. So in a very unusual way, when Shauna, my wife, and I received Bella's death certificate, and the cause of death was listed as rhabdomyosarcoma, in an incredible way, she and I high-fived each other. And the reason why we did, Carlos, is because Bella was counted. What we had noticed prior to Live Like Bella in the state of Florida and in the majority of other states, and when a child dies, the primary cause of death is put on the death certificate, meaning pneumonia, heart failure, kidney failure, infection, right? But what caused that to happen? Cancer, right? So the worst consequence of childhood cancer is death by childhood cancer. If we are not fully capturing why that child died, then like any problem on earth, you cannot provide resources to a problem unless you know the size and scope of the problem. Childhood cancer is the #1 disease killer of children, but we need to document it properly. So in the state of Florida, working with the state and the medical examiners and creating awareness, now if a child dies under the age of 18, did the child have cancer? So that is being now logged here. And it was easy to have data to substantiate how many children are dying of cancer.
So how many states are doing that now?
It's just starting to happen.
That's incredible.
I was in the White House last year at this time, and I'll be back next week. And when I brought this up at a thought leader roundtable in the White House, in the Eisenhower building, people were amazed because it makes perfect sense. In fact, there was 6 of us of the 20 that were invited there who were parents like me that had lost our children. And all of them had their children had pneumonia and a variety of other illnesses listed as the cause of death. So incredibly, it seems very simple. If we're not capturing these numbers correctly, then that's part of the reason why there's such an enormous disparity in resources provided to pediatric oncology compared to adults.
And despite that, it's still the #1 killer.
Correct. Despite that, it is. Now, it is a micro population of human beings in comparison to adults.
Correct.
Right? So that has other ramifications, right? So for example, I worked in pharma for 21 years. I developed a lot of cancer drugs. If you and I were starting a pharmaceutical company right now, we wouldn't do it in pediatric cancer because of the number of patients in there is very small. Number of humans.
Right.
However, proportionally to the number of humans that it affects, it is remarkably devastating.
Unbelievable. What is your, you said you're in 38 countries now?
Yes.
How did that happen?
So at Live Like Bella, in addition to advocating for research, we also provide what's called in-treatment support and lastly, memorial support. So we have 3 lines of service. In-treatment support is the payment of ancillary expenses for any family that has a child undergoing cancer treatment wherever they are, whether that be groceries, hospital copays, pharmacy copays, transportation, you name it. And Live Like Bella does not provide funds directly to families. We have a proprietary portal where families working with their social workers, wherever they may be in whatever cancer center in the United States or around the world, they upload their bills and Live Like Bella pays those bills directly. And so we are providing assistance to families in all of these places around the world.
How do you evaluate the need and who gets the money?
So that's a great question. The social workers in the individual hospitals are our front line, if you would.
Okay.
They work with the families and they know the needs that the families have. The reality, Carlos, is that it doesn't matter what your W-2 said last year. The moment your child is diagnosed with cancer, universally, if it's a 2-parent household, one parent will immediately have to stop working. This is not a scenario where we can drop off our 4-year-old at the cancer center to get chemo and we can run to the office for a little bit. So immediately, whatever income they had is immediately cut by half if there is a 2-parent household to begin with. So they are the ones that screen the needs. We do not do any financial screening because we know what it's like. I was very blessed to have gainful employment throughout the whole time that Bella was sick. But we learned and we saw with our friends and other families the devastating effects financially on every fiber of your being, your finances, your faith, your marriage,
Absolutely.
You name it, right? And then the last line of service, unfortunately, comes from the second, and that is memorial support. Live Like Bella helps to pay for the headstones, burials, and funerals of any child that dies of cancer anywhere in the world, and we have. Why? Because you become friends with the company that you keep. And for the 6 years that Bella was ill, my wife and I became friends with so many parents who lost their children, who later could not afford a proper burial for their child, who couldn't afford a headstone. And I visit Bella's gravesite at least every 10 days. When I go, a pine box will be just fine. But when it's your child, you want something else. She's lost at least 67 years of her time on earth. I'll be visiting that gravesite for a long time, as so many of my friends have. And so Shauna and I said, no, it's not fair that parents have to be saving their nickels after they've gone through the unimaginable and buried their own child to get a proper headstone. And so that's how that line of service began. And I have to tell you that I am extremely grateful for so many partners that have stepped up to help us in all aspects of Live Like Bella, but in particular in this community of South Florida, Van Orsdale Funeral Homes.
Yep.
Van Orsdale, that family and that entity has been around now for 100 years in our community. Crystal Van Orsdale sits on the board of Live Like Bella now as a volunteer. That family has refused to charge Live Like Bella for the burial or preparation of any child that has died of cancer in our community. It is incredibly expensive, and not so many entities are as gracious as they are.
Yeah.
That line of service, I have to share this story, started when Shauna founded Live Like Bella and we started doing these works out of our garage. There was a mother who suddenly called on a Saturday afternoon from the parking lot of a cemetery in Raleigh, North Carolina. The woman was inconsolable, and she was explaining that they had been called to go there. Her son was 5 years old. He was treated at Duke Medical Center at Duke. He had died after 8 months of a brain tumor. And they were called to go at 3 p.m. to go bury their son. And the family got dressed to go do the unthinkable. And when they arrived there, they were informed that they had an $1,800 balance on the bill. And therefore, if they could not pay that in that moment, they would return his body back to the city morgue and they would not bury their son. Shauna, my wife, when she speaks to a mother like that, it's not a volunteer saying, hey, I think I know how you feel. No, she knows exactly how you feel.
Right.
And she said, give me the number to the office of that cemetery right now. And she called. And she said, we're Live Like Bella. We're a nonprofit in Miami. We help families with children with cancer. I'm not going to pay you $1,800. I'm going to pay you $1,500, but I'm going to pay you right now with a phone. And you're going to stop torturing that family and you're going to bury that boy right now. And they did. And from that moment on, we realized this is something we have to do.
So that was the first one?
That was the first one.
So to wrap up, Raymond, thank you for being so gracious and so just open about the whole Live Like Bella and the inspiration behind it and the things you do. What's your vision now going forward for Live Like Bella?
Well, we have a very big announcement that's going to be coming a little later this month that I'm very excited about. Again, something that has never existed. It's going to be the first children's comprehensive cancer network in the country and around the world. And I think that this will help serve as a model for the rest of the states around the U.S. and beyond that. And I'm excited about the advances that are happening. And I would say just this in closing. If you are watching this and your child has been diagnosed with cancer, keep the faith. Help is coming. And I know that very soon, childhood cancer will no longer be a death sentence and threaten the lives of our children. It will first become a chronic treatable illness until it's entirely cured.
Raymond, how do they get in touch with the foundation?
On all social media at Live Like Bella. Certainly follow the hashtag Live Like Bella and livelikebella.org to get more direct information.
Thanks so much, Raymond. I really appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
And thank you for tuning in. We'll see you next time.